Bibek Debroy, one of India's finest economists, has passed away at the age of 69. He was the chairman of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, a Padma Shri awardee, an author, a columnist, and one of the architects of India's Amrit Kaal vision. Debroy was well versed in diverse fields like history, culture, politics, and spirituality, and his work left a profound impact on India's intellectual landscape. But more than his policy-making work on structural reforms and India's economic liberalisation, which in itself was highly distinguished, the thing he'll be remembered most for is his dedication to making ancient Indian texts accessible for younger generations. Debroy was only the second Indian after Manmatha Nath Dutt to translate both the Mahabharata and the Ramayana into English in their unabridged forms. This means he literally translated the entire full length of the scriptures into English so that those who can't read and understand Sanskrit, which is most people nowadays, would be able to read exactly what the scriptures say.
Rama's progress, Ramayana. So it's just one individual's perspective. The Mahabharata has the views and perspectives of multiple protagonists. So it's a bit like a novel, in the sense that a novel is defined by the views of multiple protagonists, whereas the Ramayana is more like a story, long story, in terms of the views of protagonists. The reason I mention this is this was not stuff that was written down. This was composed and verbally related. So when I come to, let's say, the second chapter, people will have forgotten what the first chapter was like. So I need to remind them what happened at the last time we met, last time we had this recitation. So there is a natural repetition.
In fact, he also translated Hindu texts like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Harivamsa, and Shiva Purana, among others, enriching access to these texts for English-speaking readers across the world. Like Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman mentioned in her condolence post, even his books showed his knack in extracting nuggets from our ancient texts and using them in stories. His immense knowledge was reflected in his books, his columns, his writings. In fact, in his last column before his passing, which he sent to the Indian Express and has now been published, it was practically a self-obituary. As another member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Sanjeev Sanyal, says, it was almost as if he knew. He called the column short of a requiem, and he writes, "There is a world outside that exists. What if I am not there? What indeed?" He went on to say that in the end he would only leave traces in memory and perhaps a few condolences, maybe even from important people. What will they mention, he writes, recounting his decades of work across various domains from trade to railway reforms. Nothing seminal about such work, he says. I had a role in the rat race, I was temporarily read and then passed into oblivion. In fact, he vividly described some of his last days which he spent in cardiac care center in AIIMS Hospital in Delhi, and referring to his possible death says that in the event the only personal loss will be Suparna's. Suparna is his wife. It means nothing to anyone else. While ministers, scholars and those who knew him are condoling the passing of this towering scholar, it's only fair that you and I should at least know what his contributions have been.